Hello, you're watching TelecomTV and our special program on intelligent RAN automation. I'm Guy Daniels, and today's discussion looks at the journey from SON, self-organizing networks, towards rApps and SMO, service management and orchestration. We'll explore why legacy SON is reaching its limits and how the shift to SMO and rApps is empowering Swisscom to deliver a seamless customer experience through open AI-driven architecture. And I'm delighted to say that joining me on the programme are Francesco Pellegrini, who is Radio Network Optimization Product Owner with Swisscom, and Felipe Romera, who is Strategic Product Manager at Ericsson. Hello, it's good to see you both. Thanks so much for taking part in today's discussion. Francesco, before we get into a lot of technical detail, what is Swisscom's approach to network excellence and the customer experience?
At Swisscom, our main commitment is to deliver the best network to our customer, providing them the best customer experience. This year, we achieved a really good and impressive result. We won the Umlaut Connect test for the 9 times in a row. And also, we achieved an amazing result with the 983 point as a score. That is the highest ever score achieved in the Switzerland and also in the DACH region. So DACH region is including also Germany and Austria. But of course, we cannot stop here because the telecom arena is changing fast, and the competition in our countries is getting tougher and tougher. The network complexity is increasing, but our customers don't care about this complexity. They just and simply want to have the best network, to have the best customer experience. So it's our job to keep up and maybe to do even better. And to do that, we need to keep changing. And of course, automation is one of the key to achieve them.
Well, absolutely, Francesco. So tell me more about your RAN automation journey. What's the motivation for this, and what have been the highlights so far?
We in Swisscom, this automation radio network optimization has been a long journey, which began many years ago. And in 2017, we implemented the first SON closed-loop use case that was this electrical tip optimization in 4G net. We introduced the use case with Ericsson through the SON platform from Ericsson. And at that time, our main goal was really to move radio network optimization from, let me say, a totally manual approach that we had till that time to really to start to leverage an automation, to really change the approach how we are optimizing our network. After this first use case, we introduced other use case also with the Ericsson SON platform. We introduced, for example, the volt optimization use case. We also introduced the HECOM, the automated cell outage management use case. And immediately after, we also we wanted to do more. And thanks to the SDK capability on the SON platform, we start to develop our use case built on this SON platform. And then we introduced several use cases working on mobility, in SRVCC, and so on. But it was not enough because at a certain point in time, we realized that in order to really leverage on all our data source that we start to have in our data lake, we need to do something more. We need to do something more as a complementary of SON platform. So at that time, we decided to develop our SON platform and in order to start to develop our own use case in a more flexible way. As I said before, leverage on all the data that we have in our data lake. And in this way, we really were able to enlarge the number use case, and also it was important we complement those use case with the ones coming from the Sono from Ericsson. So we complement the two platforms in order to, let me say, to implement more use case. We need to using all the data that we have, and also in order to match the network needs that are changing every year. So that was our journey, and of course this journey is not finished yet.
Okay, thank you very much, Francesco. And Felipe, turning to you, obviously a long history with automation and Swisscom there, but if we look beyond Swisscom, what are you seeing in the wider telecoms community?
Thank you. I think it's quite aligned with what Francesco has explained, because we see that different customers all over the world, where they have their some platform, they have developed by themselves use cases that, as I think Francesco rightly pointed, are not related or maybe require more data than some vendor can provide. Typically, this is richness of data that is in the operator's data lake that can help to create very customized use cases that are very important for them and the customers. At the same time, some vendor still provides some more technology-driven use cases, right, that are more generic and can be used by different customers all over the world. So this tendency is seen in the major customers as well, right? So totally agree with Francesco's comment.
Good to hear. Thank you, Felipe. And Francesco, if we move beyond technology, what's the importance of competence development and evolution within this journey?
Yes, exactly, because to make this transformation possible, it was not all about technology. It was about changing the mindset of the engineer and improving and developing their competencies. As a first step, we had to, let me say, to acquire some new skill in big data management, for example, coding and AI. And this was this enabled, let me say, to really change the mindset of the engineer. So the engineer start, thanks to this competence development, start to see automation as a resource, no, and not as an issue. And this really make the difference because yes, they start to think from the beginning. No, from the beginning of the development of use case, they start to think in automation as a standard and not just an evolution of some use case that they are developing. And let me also highlight that it was not only it was not enough only to add one or two data science in the radio engineering team. It was more to really integrate this new skill within the team, because only in this way you can use this new skill, this new capability in a real concrete use case. Otherwise, it remained, let me say, at academic level, and it was not possible to really leverage on all the benefit of this new skill and technology. So technology, for sure, is an enable. It's important, but to without change the mindset of the engineer and to increase their competence, it cannot success, for sure.
Yeah, this is a really interesting aspect of the automation journey. And Felipe, what supporting role does Ericsson play here?
In Ericsson, we are perfectly aware that when we are introducing new concepts, right, to the operators, such as cloud native, AI, a transformation process needs to happen in parallel. And that is why we have services that support the operators doing so. For example, we have a service that we call Adoption, that is to adapt how the new rApps can be linked with the way that the operator works or what transformations needs to be done, right? So it's a journey that we don't do on ourselves from Ericsson. It's something that we need to engage with the different customers, right? Understand what is the reality and see how can we adapt that reality into the use of the rApps that we are providing. Because we understand that we are having some disruptive technologies such as AI, right? That requires some learning curve, that requires the support from the developer, that in this case it will be us.
Great, thanks so much, Felipe. Let me move on and ask you both more about SON, about self-organizing networks. And Felipe, if I can start with you first. We know that telcos have been deploying SON for a decade or so, but has SON now reached its limits? And what are the challenges of the SON approach?
Okay, so first of all, I would like to reflect on what you said, right? That the SON technology was built several years ago, right? With important promises on automation, right? And while these promises has been, I would say, partially fulfilled, we still believe that there are some room for improvement, some enhancement that we can do. Typically, we can say that when the SON architecture was defined, the concepts that we are working today, such as AI or cloud native technologies, were not just there, right? So the platforms that were designed at that moment were not just prepared for this. On top of that, we had a lot of vendor locking, right? Because if we, as Ericsson or other SON vendor, develop their own platform, it's very linked to the roadmap that this vendor provides. Meaning that if we have a clear roadmap that we cannot accommodate customer requirements, then it's very difficult for the CSP or the network operator to find an alternative without swapping the whole platform, which is always very complex, right? And on top of that, we can also refer to the multi-vendor, right? While SON has been multi-vendor, I would say that up to a limited scope, because what we see, and I want to link that with the first point that we discussed about operators being able to develop use cases using SDK, we see that many of the SON use cases provided by the vendor were, I would say, simple. For example, ANR or PCI, which are something that is easy to be portable to multi-vendor, and is something that doesn't require a super complex logic to succeed, right? But on the other hand, we see how many network operators develop their own automations using SDK. So as a result, you have like two different tracks. The one that is providing you the vendor, right, which is typically simpler than the one that we see in the operators, right, that we see more advanced and more customized and leveraging of the richness of data that they have in their data lakes. So I would say that this, in a nutshell, is the limitations that we are seeing today, and we have seen during the past years. And we are now in a time where we have the technology ready, and not only the technology, also the willingness, because we see that the standards are evolving towards that direction. So we believe it's now time to move to the next step.
Sure. Thank you, Felipe. Good analysis of where we are today. And Francesca, any thoughts from yourself about the challenges of the SON approach?
I totally agree with Felipe. And yes, this lack, I can add that maybe this lack of flexibility of the legacy SON platform, it was one of the main reasons now that we needed to develop something from our side. So again, as Felipe said, at certain point, we need to do some customized use case that are better fitting our network needs. And of course, it's not always possible to select use case from the SON vendor portfolio. So this means we need to do something from our own. And flexibility to integrate the SON with the specific process and tool from the CSP. This was a limitation that we found, and we overcome this limitation developing something, a simple SON framework from our own. But again, this was because again there was a limitation in the SON platform, because it was, as Felipe said, it was developed some years ago, and maybe at that time there was not a specific need of that. And also he also mentioned AI. That's another reason. So if we need to really scale and we need to really move the use case in a more complex environment, we need AI capability. And of course, the SON platform was not designed for that.
So, Francesco, if we need to consider a new approach to RAN automation, given everything you've said, what are the most important drivers for this change?
Yes, let's connect with what we said till now. So for sure, I see, in my opinion, two main drivers. One is openness and one is flexibility. Openness, because as I said, we need an open platform able to be integrated in our Swisscom ecosystem. So this means process and tool to manage the transition, because of course it's not possible to switch on the new run automation platform and switch off what we have now. So we need to manage this transition and integrate the new platform in our current ecosystem is one of the most important driver that we need. The second is flexibility to choose use case from different perspectives. So for sure, we want to select use case from the vendor portfolio from Ericsson. And we also want, of course, and for what we say till now, we want to develop our use case. And why not? If we have an open standard system, maybe we can select in the future use case from third part. And all the use case has to work together in the same platform, to be coordinated together. So this, from my point of view, openness and flexibility are the key drivers if we want to move on from some legacy platform.
Okay, and Felipe, what would you say are the most important drivers for this new approach?
I would say three of them. The first one was already commented by Francesco, or that I would rephrase as freedom of choice, meaning that, as he commented, in the SMO concept, right, network operator or CSP can develop their own rApp. We, as software vendor, rApp vendor, Ericsson, we can develop ours, but we also have an open ecosystem, right? And Ericsson has the widest and biggest ecosystem in the market, where not only our rApps are there, but from other third parties. So the freedom of choice is very important for the network operator. Then the second one would be, we touched a little bit upon of this before, is the AI capabilities that the rApps can offer, as opposed to what some had, right? Typically, some was born to manage 2G, 3G, 4G modes, right? But now with the 5G, we have more complexity, right? We have all these technologies, but then we have new features that are coming, traffic patterns that changes, mobility patterns that changes, and we need to be able to adapt to that. And a rule-based approach may not be valid anymore. So that is why AI is very important. And the third point is a reflection, right? We may be tempted to think, okay, if I have today my SOM platform, can I upgrade or can I create the required interface towards to be compliant with the ORAN specification? My view is that we shouldn't do that, right? We should not do that, because at the end of the day, we want to leverage a platform that is scalable and is prepared to that. And it's not a matter of reshuffling the letters from SOM to SON, right? It's SMO what we want to do. So it's not a matter of reshuffling the platform or creating shortcuts. It's more to make a bold movement to the right platform that is future-proof and horizontally scalable, that will be able to host the AI that we have in the rApps and this ecosystem that is very important.
Okay, this is really interesting. So let me ask you both a follow-up question here. Why are we now looking at SMO and rApps for this approach? What new possibilities do these offer? And Felipe, I'll stay with you for the first answer.
Okay, when we talk about the new possibilities, I think I reflected a little bit on managing the ever-growing complexity that we have in our networks, right? So it's not a matter of creating threshold-based decisions. The decision needs to be adaptive, needs to be predictive and not reactive, right? So this shift is, to me, one of the main triggers that we can address with the new architecture of SMO and rApps, right? Also, as we have an open ecosystem, this will foster the innovation, meaning that we are not Ericsson, we are not the only one developing rApps, right? CSP can develop their own or the ecosystem. So the best rApp will be the one that will be used in the network, right? And this will increase the competition and will make us develop better rApps at the end of the day with improved automation.
And Francesco, let me ask that question to you as well. What new possibilities do you see SMO and rApps offering?
Yes, again, in my point of view, it's really to have the flexibility to choose what we need. To choose what we need, not only from one perspective or from different perspectives. So really to have tomorrow really a wider portfolio and to choose use case that the most fit our network needs. And again, to be able, one platform in which we can develop our automation use case, we can leverage of the vendor skill and expertise, and at the same time see what the ecosystem, what the market offer, also thanks to this competition from the third part, and maybe select also use case from them. So to wider the possibility that we have to implement use case that keep our network as the best network.
And Francesco, what lessons have you learned so far from the SMO and rApps journey in Swisscom?
Yes, as I said, it's a journey. It's a journey. At the moment, I can say that one of the lessons learned is focus on integration. Again, I repeat this concept, but it's really important because this is a journey, it's a long journey. It's not something that you implement, you change the approach to run automation in 1 or 2 months. It's a long journey that takes months, years. So you need to be sure that from the beginning, what you are implementing in the network as a new platform is really integrated with the process and tools that at the Swisscom we have, but other operators have also. So this is really important because, as I said, it's a journey, it's a transformation, it's a journey has to be done in a step-by-step approach. And to do that, we need, of course, during this journey, during this time, we need to continue to deliver to our customer the best network. We cannot stop to do that. So we need to continue to operate our network as the best. At the same time, not manage this transformation. So integration is really a focus. And of course, this is what I said at the beginning. We need to continue to change the mindset of the people to this new, completely new approach, and also competence. Because as I said before, to make this on transformation, we had to increase our competencies and skills, but also to move on to rApps where we need to really continue to improve our knowledge. And maybe we need other competencies in the same team, that is maybe software development and not only AI and data science. So this is something we need to take into account. So just to summarize, focus on integration is the must, and also continue with the learning and competence development.
Great. And Felipe, this is indeed a journey. Are you seeing similar approaches and results elsewhere?
Absolutely. We see this in the leading operators in the world. Swisscom, of course, one of them, with one of the best networks all over the world. But we also seen other operators in the Americas that are doing this transition from a legacy zone to the SMO and rApps. Also, important customer in Asia Pacific is also having the same or starting to run the same journey, and customer in Europe, Middle East as well, right? They were having the legacy zone from us, in this case from Ericsson, and they are convinced to this change, right? Because at the end, they see the possibilities and the benefits that this new approach will bring, and they are all for that. I can briefly comment that we have tested some of these rApps in the customer in Americas, right? Where we have run the rApp concept on top of a previously area optimized by the zone, right? It's not our zone, it's another company zone. And we ran our rApp on top, and we got important improvements, right? Because the area was already optimized. So we managed to improve the RF shaping, right? So we want to optimize the cell shapes. And we improved the downlink quality by 8% and improved the downlink throughput by 3%, right? So I think it's a very remarkable achievement, knowing that the network was previously optimized. So this is one of the advantages of the AI that lets you test different configurations in a simulated way so that you can apply the best one. And on top of that, we discuss with the customer and try to quantify the operational efficiency gains, right? And we had a joint analysis and assessment where we conclude that up to 75% of the operational work could be improved by this new approach. So we believe this is very exciting, and we are encouraging everybody to run this way, right? Because I think it will be worth it.
Well, these are certainly encouraging developments. Francesco, are there any other recent adoption cases that you want to highlight?
Yes, I can mention that with Ericsson, we start in the previous months the first implementation in the network of some first rApp in the cell anomaly detection and uplink interference detector, also using this new AI-based anomaly root cause explainer that we expect a good result to improve our efficiency in optimize the network. And also coming in the first month of 2026, we also start the validation of this red cell shaper for 4G and 5G networks. So we are working with Ericsson to really see in action the first rApps.
Great, thanks, Francesco. And Felipe, any further specific adoption cases that you should mention?
No, I mean, I think I want to reflect on the one that Francesco has commented in Swisscom because it's very important for us. I would like, first of all, to say thank you to Swisscom because thanks to their help and the collaboration we are having, we have been able to evolve the rApps very fast and take them to a very mature state, right? Therefore, we are making this kind of announcement, right? Because we feel ready for that. So to me, I think the journey we have started with Swisscom, still we need to finish, right? But I think it's a very interesting use case and reference case that is important for us.
Thanks, Felipe. So we've heard many times that this is a journey. We're on this journey. Francesco, what does Swisscom have planned and what developments do you want to see next?
Yeah, now the next milestone is to really see in action the first rApp. We invest a lot of time and effort. As I said before, it's a journey. We start some months ago. We are pioneers with Ericsson in this area, and as all pioneers, we know there has been and still are challenging in front of us, but we need to outcome on this, and really looking forward to see in the next months really the first rApp in action, delivering benefit, delivering result in the Swisscom network. This is the first milestone, and of course, in parallel, we also start to evaluate other kind of rApps because maybe we didn't mention, but this SMO is not only radio network optimization, it's RAN automation. So we want to also start to explore with Ericsson portfolio other kind of rApps in other area like radio network operation or maybe slice or energy saving. So again, we first let's start to have the first rApp in place, working in the network, not in production, and then at the same time we also start to evaluate other kind of rApps in other areas.
Great, and we look forward to hearing further developments in the near future. Felipe, final thoughts from you on what's been a really good conversation here?
Yeah, to me it's more, I would like to convey a call for action, right? Because I know and I reflect on and leverage on what Francesco said, right? The path may be challenging at the beginning. We are talking here with the pioneers, but it is absolutely worth it. And it's worth it because if you don't do that now, it will be way more difficult to do it later, right? Because this is something that has come and will stay, right? We cannot dismiss the importance of cloud native platforms, AI-powered applications, right? An open ecosystem. So this is something that the sooner we start to work on, the better it will be in the near and mid future, right? So to me, that is my message. I convey a call for action for this.
Great message too. Thanks very much, Felipe. We must leave it there though. Felipe and Francesco, thank you both very much for taking part in our discussion. And for further information on the topics covered in this program, please click and follow the links in the text below. For now though, thank you so much for watching and goodbye.